I'm telling you, war is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And a lot of innocent people
I'm the one who thinks war is a horrible thing.
No. I think what you don't
I'm trying to explain how horrible it is, and you're saying that the 14-year-old deserved to die.
One of the main arguments often put forward by the Israeli government for the killing of the innocent people, including children, is that Hamas militants hide themselves within civilian areas. Now, as Catholics, when we hear this, we can sometimes find ourselves thinking, what else can be done in such a difficult situation? And slowly, without even realizing it, we may begin to accept that harm to innocent people might be unavoidable under these circumstances. But as Catholics, can we really condone the killing of the innocent? Before we analyze that, let's listen to Mike Huckabee on what he has to say about this.
Do you hear yourself? I wonder.
I just said that there were kids as young as 14 that were recruited to be Hamas soldiers who were given arms.
How do you feel about the kids being killed?
I think it's horrible. Oh. You know what I also think is horrible? I think it's horrible that 1,200 people were slaughtered by people across the border, and 252 people were taken hostage. 48 of the 1,200 were Americans.
Couldn't agree more.
And then when
Are all lives equal?
When Hamas could have ended this on October the 8th and given all the hostages up, they didn't, leaving no choice.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas.
I'm
not pro-Hamas. I'm totally opposed to slaughtering innocents, whether Hamas does it or whether the government of Israel does it in much larger numbers. And the reason I'm opposed to it is because I'm a Christian and I believe that all souls are created by God.
I do not disagree with that wholeheartedly.
But I said, how many children have been killed?
War is a horrible thing, period.
So that's not really a defense, is it?
War is a horrible thing, Tucker, and there are people who end up, unfortunately, being killed that shouldn't have been. I would tell you that I wish that none of those people in Gaza had been killed after October the 8th. Well, I say not none of them. I'm glad Mohammed Sinwar was killed. I'm glad that some of those warriors, the people who masterminded and carried out the atrocities of October 7th.
14-year-old Hamas operatives, how do you feel about their deaths?
If they participated in that, then God help them. I'm telling you,
what does
Tucker,
that mean, God help
I don't know that they were 14 years. No, but I'm telling you that when someone commits the acts of atrocity and then they hold hostages, if these were your children being held hostage in Gaza, what would you do to get them out?
I wouldn't want to kill 14-year-olds, I'll tell you that.
Let me ask you something. Would you do whatever it took to get your kids back if they were being tortured, raped, starved, and beaten?
I would not kill children, period.
Well, I'm just telling you.
And I would never make excuses for killing children either.
And I'm not talking about targeting children. I'm talking about...
You told me that 14-year-olds deserve to die because they were working for Hamas.
I'm telling you...
My question is, can you hear yourself?
I do hear myself.
So do you think a 14-year-old child has agency? Do you think that he deserves to die because he's being used by adults? Isn't his death a crushing tragedy?
If he's holding a gun and he's pointing it at someone who's trying to save a hostage, and the only way to save that hostage... I'm telling you, war is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And a lot of innocent people
I'm the one who thinks war is a horrible thing.
No. I think what you don't
I'm trying to explain how horrible it is, and you're saying that the 14-year-old deserved to die. We don't execute 14-year-olds.
You're putting words in my mouth that I didn't.
I don't know what you're saying.
I never said deserve to die.
Okay.
I say there are people who die that is unfortunate.
Okay.
But I'm saying that you are not giving Israel credit for having done everything they possibly could.
Now, as you heard in the clip, Mike Huckabee repeatedly argues that particular locations are targeted by the Israeli government simply because militants are hiding among civilians, and that even though the stated intention is to eliminate those militants, the resulting civilian casualties, including the loss of innocent lives, are accepted as an inevitable and foreseeable consequence of carrying out such an action, effectively treating those deaths not as something to be avoided at all cost, but as something that must be tolerated in order to achieve the intended objective. But as Catholics, we must firmly disagree with this reasoning, because the Church clearly teaches that you cannot justify harming innocent people simply because the guilty are nearby. The presence of evil does not give us permission to destroy the good along with it. This is precisely why the gospel wants us to be careful when removing the weeds, lest we uproot the wheat as well, meaning that when good and bad are mixed together, we cannot address evil in a way that ends up destroying the innocent along with it. And even in the most difficult and complex situations, the moral duty remains unchanged. In the next clip, Bishop Barron will explain this more clearly. Let's listen.
What this means is, evil is always, listen now, parasitic upon the good. Again, it's not like, well, here's good and there's evil. No, evil by its very nature is in the good. It's a corruption of the good. It's parasitic, therefore, upon the good. Or think of a cancer that's compromising an organ. Well, the organ is good. It's doing its healthy, natural thing. But now the cancer is corrupting it. What's the implication? It is practically impossible ever simply to get at evil without threatening in some way the good. Do you see why? So you're a skilled dentist and you notice, well, there's a cavity in a tooth. Well, let me just go in there and get it out. It doesn't work that way. You don't just go get it out or, hey, let's put the tooth to one side and I'm going to fight that cavity. No, the cavity's in the tooth. And therefore, if you want to solve the problem of the cavity while still retaining the integrity of the tooth, you have to be very, very delicate and careful. Talk to any surgeon, any oncologist dealing with a cancer, the same thing. You're dealing with a tumor that is parasitic upon some healthy organ. Just go in there and get that cancer out. Well, you better be pretty careful about it. All right, move outside the realm of physiology. How about a corrupt parish, a corrupt church, a corrupt community? Is the corruption evil? Yeah, of course it is. All right, I know, just go in there and get it out. Well, just like the tooth. Whatever there is that's corrupt in, let's say, a parish, is parasitic upon what's good and healthy in the parish. Has to be. It's just the way it works. You say, but that community, boy, that thing is rife with sin and with corruption. Yeah, but to get that out without destroying the community itself, you got to be very careful. You know, it's a lesson that I think young priests often have to learn because they'll get into a parish. It's a typical rookie mistake. And they see right away, oh yeah, this is a mess. This thing is not working. Yeah, okay, right. But the wise pastor might say, but you can't go in there with two hands and just rip it out. You've got to be extremely delicate and careful to extricate the evil without destroying the good. See, and that's why the master says in the parable, no, if you pull up the weeds, you might uproot the wheat along with them. Remember, everybody, that principle. Think of the weeds wrapping themselves around the wheat. Tear those weeds out. Yeah, and the wheat comes up with them. So, what's the conclusion? Listen now to the parable. The master says, let them grow together until harvest. Then, at harvest time, I will say to the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles for burning, but gather the wheat into my barn. What's being signaled here, everybody, is that, yes, we are on for dealing with evil when we see it, and with requisite delicacy and all that. Yes, indeed. But also, at the end of the day, some evils can be dealt with only by God. It's only God who has the delicacy and the wisdom to separate the wheat from the weeds. Maybe sometimes in the presence of terrible evil, we have to be patient and allow God to do his work. And now one more point here.
Now, to make this even more concrete, think about a father-son relationship. During the teenage years, this relationship is often tense and complicated. The father sets boundaries while the son begins to test them, question them, and sometimes even break them. In this situation, the son's bad behavior like lying, disobedience, or bad influences are like the weeds. But the son himself, along with the love, trust, and bond he shares with his father, is the wheat. And the father's role is not simply to remove the weeds at any cost, but to protect the wheat while dealing with the weeds. Because if the father reacts harshly and tries to tear out the weeds aggressively, he risks uprooting the wheat, destroying trust, pushing his son away, and weakening the very relationship that is needed for real change. But if he corrects with patience, clarity, and wisdom, he deals with what is wrong while preserving what is good. He removes the weeds in a way that allows the wheat to grow stronger. And this balance, removing what is wrong while protecting what is good, is what makes true discipline effective. And this is exactly where the analogy applies to war. Because even if the guilty are hiding among the innocent, you cannot destroy both and then claim that it is justified. That would be like tearing out the weeds and destroying the wheat along with them. Catholic teaching is absolutely clear on this point. The presence of evil does not make it acceptable to kill the innocent. The duty remains to confront the threat in a way that protects innocent life, not in a way that treats it as expendable. Now, to take this even further, in the next clip, Joe Heschmeyer, a Catholic apologist from Catholic Kansas, explains why a preventive war like the Iran war does not qualify as a just war according to Catholic teaching. And this takes the issue of killing the innocent to even a deeper level. Let's listen.
And the Catechism begins by saying, the strict conditions for legitimate defense by military force require rigorous consideration. But I want to focus on that line, legitimate defense by military force, and ask, what about preventative wars? Like we just saw a situation where the U.S. sent B-2 bombers in to attack Iranian nuclear facilities. And depending on how one views it, Iran was either planning to build a nuke at some point in the future. It always seemed like it was weeks or months away and has been for like a couple decades now. Either that, or they were constantly threatening, look at how close we are, in order to bring the U.S. to the bargaining table to get better deals, as we saw with like the nuclear deal negotiated during the Obama administration. That they were either using the threat of building a nuke as just a bargaining chip, or they really were just about to build one, and they just always get caught just in time. Now, you can read that situation in either of those two lights based on who you believe, but it's important to at least ask the question, is it ever valid to have a preventative war? Are you ever allowed to preemptively strike? This was one of the issues that came up very strongly in the invasion of Iraq, where similarly we were told they were just about to get a WMD. And it obviously in that case turned out not to be true. And a lot of the intelligence was false or people were lying. What are the actual standards? So it's a little nuanced. Think about it in terms of lawful self-defense. You can use lethal force to defend yourself if someone is about to inflict lethal force against you. You don't have to wait for them to shoot you first. If they lift a gun as if they're about to shoot you, you can shoot them, and you can shoot them to completely eliminate the threat. On the other hand, the mere fact that someone's a gun owner would not be a reason you could go and kill them. So you have to have something more than that, something that looks like you're under immediate and direct threat. Well, similarly, as the compendium of the social doctrine of the church, which is kind of a summary of the Catechism, explains, engaging in a preventative war without clear proof that an attack is imminent is going to raise serious moral and juridical questions. Moral questions because it appears to violate just war, and juridical questions because you don't have clear legal justification morally or under international law to just invade someone else because they have weapons that could potentially hurt you. Because every nation on earth has weapons that could potentially hurt you. And so you need something more than that. You need, in fact, more than the fact that they have weapons and don't like you. There is no shortage of people who don't like, I'm an American. There's no shortage of people who don't like Americans and countries that say nasty things about Americans. And so if that's the justification for invading, you can invade a lot of countries. And doing that is going to produce even more people who don't like you, and therefore you can invade more countries. So the fact that somebody doesn't like you and has potentially deadly weapons is not enough by itself morally.
As Joe Heschmeyer explains, the only serious justification for a preemptive strike would be the presence of an immediate and credible threat, something like a country already possessing a nuclear weapon and clearly preparing to use it. In other words, the threat must not be hypothetical, distant, or based on fear. It must be real, present, and certain. But when you apply that standard here, the argument begins to collapse. Iran does not currently have a nuclear weapon. It is enriching uranium, which is certainly concerning, but that is not the same as possessing or deploying a nuclear weapon. And more importantly, there is no clear and imminent evidence that Iran is preparing to launch a nuclear attack against the United States. Yes, there is hostile rhetoric like death to America, but rhetoric is not same as actual imminent attack. Iranian leadership knows very well that using a nuclear weapon against the United States would result in their complete destruction. It would be a mutual annihilation. So the idea that they would intentionally carry out such an attack, even if they had the capability, is highly questionable. So when you look at this situation through that lens, a preemptive strike in this context appears to fall outside the bounds of Catholic just war teaching. Without an imminent threat, it cannot be morally justified. In conclusion, I want to leave you with the words of St. Augustine, who said, "Peace is not to be sought in order to kindle war, but war is to be waged in order to secure peace." I hope this video is helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. God bless you.